I'm here today with Dr. Brenda Brummond, and thank you so much for being here. Dr. Brenda is a down-to-earth success coach, like really down to earth. And she's a speaker, and she is the creator of the School of Self-Worth. How much do I love that? She has helped hundreds of high-achieving women find the path of least resistance to creating six, seven, eight, even nine-figure businesses that feel soul-aligned and successful for a life that feels as good as it looks. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy, and hi to all your listeners.
Um, you have a kind of a really compelling backstory, which we don't have to, go deep into, but I listened to your podcast
Mhm.
and it's a very unusual, not unusual. It is, it's not, it's a tale that you don't hear very often of um, successful professional people hitting what can only be described as rock bottom, like a real rock bottom, and coming back from that and, having a stronger marriage and getting into, coaching and helping other people. So, yeah, it's unique.
Yes, very much so. Even it's so interesting as you say that. I think Dennis, my husband, and I both would say, even along the journey of our rock bottoms, it always felt really weird. Like, what is going on? Why are we in these weird positions of, we both ended up drug addicted. We both ended up, struggling, trying to figure out who we were, trying to figure out the journey of it all. And yeah, it's kind of like, how did I get here and how is this happening? But I think we both would say there was some really weird, wild consciousness in the back of both of our lives that just made us felt like we were watching a movie of our own lives as the whole thing was progressing. But yet we still felt so stuck in the middle of it. Like, how am I going to find my way out of this?
Yeah, very cool. I mean, not cool in the sense of, it's great that you are making yourself available to other people who are, I mean, the world is clearly full of very successful people who have a similar otherworldly kind of experience of like, how did I get here? Like, what is this? Like, this is
Yeah.
not where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Dennis and I both come from different backgrounds. I mean, we were both raised in the Midwest. He came from an idyllic family. His mom was a stay-at-home mom, really beautiful Catholic woman. I always call a saint that walks this earth. She's just such a beautiful, soulful person inside and out. And then his dad was a math teacher and very critical, analytical thinking, but he was raised in, he felt safe in such a hometown community and all was well. And I was in my little rural community and just, my mom and dad struggled. We were very poor. I was second oldest of six. My mom and dad, used alcohol on weekends to deal with their stress, which I can totally understand now as I'm older. But when I was younger, it was frustrating. And then how we both kind of journeyed along that path. It's funny because you look back and you say, wow, look at these stories we were creating for ourselves, like these meanings of ideas of life and ideas of ourselves. And then, our paths crossed actually in chiropractic school. I went down the path of thinking, okay, well, I don't want to be like my parents. I want to be super successful. I want to make a lot of money because that's something we didn't have. And I didn't want to struggle. So that was my whole drive, like my whole life is like, what can I do? And yet I wanted to be a doctor as far back as I can remember. I wanted to help people. I hate seeing people in pain. I hate seeing people struggle. So I was like on a mission to be successful. And then I met my junior high school sweetheart in eighth grade. We dated all throughout high school, married in college. It was like the next thing you do in a small town, right? Like you marry someone and then you have a baby. And so we had our daughter Kenzie, and then we're off to grad school, and I'm, in chiropractic school. I had to move a state away. And that was tough on our relationship, and it was tough on him. And we ended up separating and divorcing. And Dennis, went through his journey with bodybuilding and kind of struggling and drinking and all of that. And he ended up at chiropractic school, and that's where we met 2 states away. And then it was sort of like a journey of he was a super deep intuitive thinker. Like he was just always asking life's big questions, like who are we? Why do we exist? Why are we here? What's going on? And I had been that way my whole life as far as wanting to just talk about these concepts and just ask these ideas, but nobody around me had any interest. They were all just like, can't you just be happy with what you got and just settle? And I'm just like, yeah, but why? Why do we this? Why do we that? And so when I met him, my biggest curiosity of all things was just our conversations and his intelligence. And we could just, explore and discover and have these really powerful, deep discussions. And then we still had to go through our own experience to end up back full circle where so many things started making sense on the other side of our rock bottom. So, such a weird, fascinating, wild journey for sure.
Um, there's one thing that kind of intrigued me in the episode that I listened to with you and Dennis. Um, and actually, the podcast is called Modern Spiritual Power Couples. For anybody who's, we'll put the link, of course, in the show notes to that. But um, he spoke to an issue that I think is, uh, really foundational in so many ways. It's the syndrome of like, when I get this XYZ, then I'll be happy. When
Mhm.
when I make a lot of money, then I'll be happy. When I, graduate with my degree in chiropractic, then I'll be happy. When I find the right partner, then I'll be happy. When I, you know, am in my own house and I'm a homeowner, that, on and on and on, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's just talk a little bit about that and where it shows up in your work.
Yeah, for sure. I find that that is sort of the paradigm here, the paradigm that we're all living under. I was exactly the same way. When I make all this money, when I have this career, when I have the perfect body, when I have the perfect intelligence, when I have, everything in a certain way, then I'll be happy. And I think that's what the world sort of, I don't know if you want to call it on purpose or somewhat accidentally teaches. It's like, wow, we're all on this hunt and this scouting mission to figure out how can we measure up, how can we compete, how can we get one up on the competition, how can we, do check off the boxes of what does it mean to be a successful person, what does it mean to be a happy person, what do I need to do to achieve that? And it was looking at meaning and life and purpose everywhere outside of you, but the one most important place where it's here and available for everyone, but no one looks. And frankly, most of us haven't been trained to even look or connect and cultivate that, which is that it exists inside all of us at all times.
I think that's if I can just add to that, because I agree totally with what you just said, but I think it's the flip side of the coin of the same issue, which is that whatever is valuable is somehow outside of me. And my, the illusion, like my job is to get that thing in order to add value to myself or to be like that person in order to elevate my value. So the idea that the value could actually be inside is so counterintuitive that
Yeah.
people can hardly wrap their heads around that. Like, what does that even mean? And I, I guess my way of thinking is that it would be more correct to say than that the most important place is inside, is that like the only place is actually inside. Like all
Yeah.
the rest of it is an illusion. All the things outside of
Yeah.
us that we think are the measuring stick, the tape measure, the yardstick of your value or of what success means. Like people actually. believe very deeply that it is about what's outside of you. Like, how can you be a success inside of yourself?
Yes, totally. I think that is. And isn't it the most interesting thing that it's something we all have, it's inside of us, it can be accessed at any point in time, and yet we all miss it. Like, you know, it's right there and we don't see it. And that reminds me when you think of sort of truth, that all the most beautiful truths in the world are just so simple and they're so beautiful and they're so incredible, and yet they're available to us at any point in time. But because we operate under this delusion of the ego brain of, seek and do not find, seek and then destroy if there's something that puts you in comparison or competition with someone else, and just this whole upside down paradigm thought system. We're all kind of bamboozled by that whole thought system in so many ways. I know I was. And if it wasn't for that inner yearning of gosh, there's got to be something more to life than this, there's got to be something more to, money, success, joy, happiness, love, intimacy, health, wellness. There's got to be something even more to that. And I thank goodness that compass was within me and loud enough to say, keep looking, keep searching. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, yep, I had it all along, just didn't know how to use it.
Tell me about the School of Self-Worth. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that name and I love the concept.
Thank you so much. I would say that was probably one of my biggest downfalls, is that I really felt throughout my whole life I was lacking self-worth. And that was for me the story that led to searching so hard outside myself and then getting in perfectionist syndrome of like, well, if I am going to do something, I have to do it perfect or then I'm not good enough. And I really, as I sat down and I've done this work now for 25 years. And as I've really learned things for myself, and then I kind of became an accidental coach being a chiropractor. And as I learned all of this, I was starting to share it more with my clients who were mostly women. And they, then would ask me for time outside of the adjustment to just talk and share more. And I'm like, sure, let's do that. They're like, I'll pay you for your time. I'm like, sure. So I started doing that. And I realized as I watched other women and their struggles in life, and I looked at my own and throughout every stage of my life, and I thought, my gosh, I really don't feel very worthy. And that's what's got me on the prowl for all of these other things to make me feel good enough. And so when I was understanding self-worth and what that really is, and it's like a really, really deep understanding of the true inherent value that you carry with you no matter what. And then I thought, well, why is it so hard for us? Again, there's something that we all have. We all are inherently worthy. It was given to us without us having to do anything to earn it. It's divinely given. So why don't we experience it? Why is it such a struggle? So when I created the School of Self-Worth, the goal of it is to basically remove all the biggest blocks that get in the way of you experiencing and knowing your own divine worthiness.
Mm.
And so as I was sort of formulating this and putting it together, and so far I've run a couple groups of women through it, I felt like that's it. It's like we don't need to, even there's words like activate your worthiness, and it isn't even that. It's like that's given, that's there, it's fully activated, it's just ready to be called upon, to be known, to be seen, to be understood. But if you don't understand the blocks, if you don't understand the biggest things getting in the way of you experiencing it, it's sort of like a dog chasing its tail. It feels like you're just spinning around in all these different directions and, never finding what you're really truly looking for.
I have a feeling that people could easily say, oh yeah, but that's true for you, Dr. Brenda, because like look who you are. Like you have
Mhm.
worth that's different for me. Like I don't,
Mhm.
you may have inherent worth because look at you, but I don't have inherent worth. Um, it's a tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think one of the best ways I've had, clients say the exact same thing in different ways, yeah, easy for you to say you have like a title and you have a career and you've achieved things and all of that. And especially if they're women who have children and I can have them reflect on their children, like, okay, Jill, your child, your daughter, or, James, your son, is one of them better or more valuable
Right.
than the other? Is James given something that Jill wasn't given? And, me compared to anyone else in my world, am I more holy, more special, more anything compared to someone else? Not at all. So if we can see it in our children and you can see it in maybe other family members who you love and use that as a reference that, are they broken? Are they inherently bad or wrong? I just don't see that. I see everybody is given, the opportunity to, I mean, I feel like that's what life's all about is to discover your own divine worthiness, that part of you that is whole, perfect, and complete. And I get the feeling though, because I live the vast majority of my life and seek and do not find with this whole worthiness piece. And I understand that that was part of my journey because for a long time, I felt so guilty and shameful that the things I was trying to seek for, competing in fitness competitions and trying to have the perfect body and, becoming a doctor and all these other things, it felt like there was a part of me that felt like, gosh, what's wrong with me? Brenda, isn't enough going to be enough? Like, why are you doing all of this? Aren't you enough? Um, but that's the thing. That's my proof and point is that if you don't feel worthy, if you don't experience worthiness, there isn't anything you can totally do outside of you that's going to totally give that to you. So that's my journey and that's my work and what I want to share with others is again when you remove the blocks to that worthiness, it will find you. It's kind of like I had a client the other day that said, I really want to find my authentic voice. And I just said, as we continue this work with you, your authentic voice finds you. You don't need to find it.
This is great. And I'm going to use this as a moment to take a pause in the recording. And I also have to take a moment because my dog has inexplicably come in and will not stop bugging me. So please give me just 1 minute. I'm going to go put some food in his bowl or something. Otherwise, I'm going to be in
Abs-
trouble.
Absolutely.
I'm going to just hit pause here.
Sure.
I'm back with Dr. Brenda Brummond. We were just talking about self-worth and your school of self-worth. And maybe you can say a little bit. I'm writing a book at the moment, so this is very much aligned with um, what I'm all about right now. And my book is about selfishness. It's about the virtue of selfishness and the importance of selfishness on the spiritual journey, which is something that um, we don't talk about very much. And people have a really hard time getting over the idea of being arrogant. That if I were to acknowledge my innate worth, I would be arrogant. That would constitute being arrogant.
Mm.
Where do you see that playing in?
Yeah, I agree with your premise of writing this book and how important it is and giving people a fresh new perspective on what true what selfishness is or what we think it is. There's a couple ideas I have about that, and congratulations on the writing of your book. I'm knee deep in writing one myself, so I understand it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, totally.
Um, and Dennis and I, again, going back to we have like the best discussions ever. We were talking about this one day, and he had a revelation actually, and he said, this idea of being selfish seems really funny when at the deepest spiritual understanding of who you are and who everyone else is that if we are really all one, and if someone else is really, in essence, a part of me is me and I, they, how could selfishness ever have any kind of construct unless the premise from the beginning is flawed?
Boom.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's like that's like a welcome out of the matrix kind of light bulb
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
It really
yeah.
is.
So beautiful. I love that so much, Tracy, that you're bringing the attention to that and in the way that you are. And that's another one of these, upside down thought paradigms that we have so wrong. And so, yeah, the way that you're bringing attention to that and saying, oh, but wait, if we understand the premise underneath this.
Well, listen, you know how long it took me to have the, I will say the courage. It's not really courage, but like I've been carrying this around for about 10 years, saying, you can't say that. Like
Mm,
that, what if it's wrong? Like
mm,
how you no, you have to think about this more. What if it's wrong? And I mean, it came to me as a complete download, about 10 years ago, and it's taken me that long to um to not waffle. I
yeah,
kept waffling and saying that can't be right. Like I just couldn't believe that all the conditioning of my life around that, and not to mention all of the like Judeo-Christian ethos and all of the religious, the religious morality that informs all of our social behaviors, like
mhm,
how could there be something redeemable about selfishness? It's
yeah,
it's a big one, and it speaks to that idea of arrogance, um, and not that I mean I think that it's the perceived arrogance that's the problem. No one
yes,
wants to be perceived as being arrogant, but in truth, like you just said, you actually are everything. You know, you are a drop and you're also the ocean. And
yeah,
knowing that makes you very powerful. And
yes,
whatever forces would prefer that people are vulnerable instead of being powerful would condition us away from that with the idea that anyone who displays their knowledge of this reality will be shunned,
yeah,
and that keeps people from daring to know it.
yeah. Yeah, so true. So that makes sense then in the evolution of it taking 10 years to sort of, brew and work inside of you because you were still growing and evolving and you got to that really grounded place where you saw that, though, this is really powerful. This concept right here can shift everything for people.
But it's still like, even as I'm writing it, I still get poked with a, that's too far. Maybe you can't say that, Ooh, that's going too far. But I think it's really important, uh, especially for people who are either, um, committed to the concept of compassion, to social justice, to, making change in the world, um, doing all the things, right? To making the world a better place. It's an especially hard sell for those kind of people. And they're the ones I think who need it the most
Absolutely.
because they want so much to do good things, and that the limit of what they can ever accomplish with their sort of 3D goodwill is so limited compared to the exponential power that you can have when you know that you are worthy.
Yeah.
That is a doorway to a much, much greater capacity for change than anybody
Yeah.
can have by feeling small and wanting somehow to. It's not even that they want to redeem themselves, but that's essentially the idea. Like, let me earn my value by making change in the world.
Yeah.
Um, and that's it's a shame because the change is so small compared with what you would naturally stream and
Yeah.
emanate from a different perspective.
I agree 1,000,000%. There's a couple things in there that I found interesting when I was kind of thinking about this topic too. Um, so selfish, it's which self are you talking
Right.
about, right?
Right.
Little s self, which is, yeah,
Yes.
that's that ego,
Yeah.
idea of who you are when you need to compete with everyone and you're unworthy and not enough. And that is exactly right. That I love that you're sharing this in the book in the way where it brings that part of you up and into the light to look at and say, but do I want to lead from that me against the world against me, others against me self? Or do I want to lead from that capital S divine self,
Yeah.
which you're absolutely right. In there comes all that power activated and online and ready. And it is such a power that I don't think is talked about in the world much. And going back to Dennis and I having these really great discussions years ago, he said something to me I thought was, it took me back in my seat for a minute. And then I realized what he meant. And I think there's some similarities here to what you're talking about. He said, we're driving in the car somewhere. And he said to me, what's the difference between Hitler and Jesus?
Wow.
And I'm like, well, everything, like, like I don't know where you're going with this. I mean, everything. And he said, both wanted a better world. Hitler decided to change everyone outside of him for a better world. Jesus said, how can I change myself for a better world?
Wow. That's so profound.
Isn't it?
That's some crazy wisdom there.
Yeah. I mean, that just like it just set me back in the seat again. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And I think it's similar to what you're talking about when there's people who are like, yeah, but I can't be selfish. Like I'm trying to fight against my selfishness because look, I want to go out and change everything in the world. And again, not that we don't want to be kind and gracious and compassionate and do what we can to help in the world. But again, you're always going back to, but what is your premise? We have to make sure we're, starting from truth, starting from solid foundational ground. So if you're starting with, I'm unworthy or lack, or there's not enough of me, so that I'm going to go out and do all this in the world. It's exactly that paradigm shift you're teaching. It's like, oh, but what if we activate the power that lies within you and then watch everything else line up around you with
Right.
way
You
less
watch
effort?
even the empathy, the compassion lines up automatically because that is the nature. That is our true nature
Hmm.
to stream and flow out at endless abundance, right? Like
Yeah.
it is our true nature to be that way. You don't have to put yourself there and generate it.
Hmm.
That's when you're in that powerful state of knowing who you are, it happens automatically.
Yeah.
The the thing that disturbs people, I guess, or the thing that you have to uh whatever, not monitor, but it's going to be an ongoing trigger for a while until you get established in it. And it's still a trigger for me because there are new triggers at new levels, but
Hmm.
the the certainty and the knowing um triggers other people
Yeah.
in their uncertainty. And that's where you get this arrogant, selfish language coming at you from other people who want you to stay on their plane and play their small game of
Hmm.
do your little bit and look nice to everybody, and we'll all do this thing together and we'll all resemble each other and we'll know who's good and bad, um,
Hmm.
from our dualistic perspective. Uh, so it really requires you to let go of caring how other people measure it. because the
Yeah.
measurement is no longer on the outside. And that's a big leap of development. It's a big aha that comes when you can really say, I actually truly don't care what other people think. And there are also so many levels of this, like it will come back at a new level. The worthiness piece,
Mhm.
like I I truly believe and I know because I see it in my work that even people who are very advanced in their spiritual journey have that same kind of crisis at the the level of as we get closer to whatever you could call enlightenment or oneness or whatever, right? There's always another threshold where you're not sure if you are actually worthy to stand on the other side of that,
Yeah.
no matter what the level is, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so it comes back again and again, but it's the same process. Like you said, it's the same remembering. It's not even an activating, it's a remembering.
Mhm. Yeah. I think so too. And it's really interesting, Tracy. I wonder if it's another way of looking at things, not as if not you don't have to care about what other people think, but what if it's that you care so much
Mm,
about other people
yeah,
that you're able to see right through, like one of my favorite, and Dennis and my is also one of our favorite books is A Course in Miracles, and
yeah.
it talks very clearly in there about our goal is to see through the facade, the body, the physical form, the mental projections, to see all the way, like keep going, keep going, keep going, all the way into what is true within that person, the soul, the light, the understanding, and that only in going all the way through into the inside of what is truth and what exists in there, then will that be mirrored back to you to that same degree.
But that's fantastic. And just because you said going inside, um, I would love for you to speak to the physical body and its role in this kind of transformation, especially as a chiropractor. You know, you work on people's bodies, and it's not an accident that that you're doing this kind of work. We often think that they're completely different things, you know, the metaphysical part and the material corpus that we have. Talk about
Yeah.
the body.
Yeah, I find the body absolutely fascinating. When I was young, I just had this discussion with someone, my son actually, who's trying to, he's a junior in high school, trying to figure out what he wants to do in life. And I was just sharing with him my journey. And I said, you know, Brody, when I knew I wanted to be a doctor, it was one, because I was absolutely fascinated by what this thing is called the human body. Like, how in the world does this thing work, operate, heal? Like, what is going on with this thing? It's so fabulous. And then again, I don't want to see people in pain, physical pain. So what can I do to help alleviate that? And so, yeah, I practiced chiropractic 20 years. We still have a practice together. My husband still practices. It's been 25 years in total. And the nervous system being sort of a circuit board, it reminded me of, what everybody understands is the brain being the master controller of the body, and that the circuit board then that the brain gives signals through is the spinal cord and all of the spinal nerve roots, and it goes outward and then it reads information outward and then brings it back up to the brain for processing. And initially, like, that just had me. I'm just like, you cannot even like make this up. Who did this? Who created this? And then I was just floored that a chiropractor, through the arts and science of releasing pressure and introducing movement back into restricted areas, that the body can understand the mind, the brain, and the brain can understand the body better. And you remove that interference. And then as I was going down this, I sort of left the physical journey. It's like, okay, I understood the body to the extent I wanted to. And then as I deepened into kind of the mind and understanding success and why we think the way we do and the processing of the mind, eventually that led for me into deeper spirituality. It's like, okay, now once you go past the mind, what else is there? And then I started seeing the body completely different and yet could also relate all the things I saw as a chiropractor to my newer understanding that the body is, kind of a conglomeration of our past, of our stories, of our beliefs, our pain, our trauma can be stored in the body. I mean, it was so interesting, when you would adjust people periodically over time and you'd get really kind of used to knowing people's bodies and where they held tension and where, the upper right side related to the lower left side and all of that. And then let's say they would come in for a chiropractic visit and it would be like the day before they were leaving on vacation. And that person would sit down and you would do your assessment and you would check for motion and alignment. And it was completely as if a new body had sat down. The old patterns weren't there,
Hmm.
the old storage of who knows stories, traumas, whatever. It was completely different. And it was so fascinating. And then that person could go on vacation, come back in. And it was like the old body was back again. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. And so then I started seeing that, a lot of our goal in life then is as you deepen your journey of whatever that looks like, it's physical to the mental, to the mental, to the spiritual, is to sort of go beyond the body, beyond the limitations, even beyond the limitations of the mind, and that we can have a shift in our perception, in our mind and our soul, and that the body can completely change, down regulate genes, up regulate genes, change and shift your DNA, rewrite things based upon the thoughts that you were thinking and what you were believing. And I now a lot of the work that I do is I have a retreat coming up in the beginning of November. And everything we do at this retreat, we check in at 4 p.m. on a Thursday and check out 11 a.m. on Saturday. It's beautiful retreat home. And everything is about down regulating and balancing the nervous system, shifting and changing those neural networks, changing the chemistry, the way their body operates, the way their mind thinks, the way their heart feels. Um, and it's so wild to see the power of what our thoughts can have on our bodies.
100%. This is sounds a lot like what Bruce Lipton wrote about in the biology of belief, right? That
Yeah.
yeah, it creates biology. It changes your system. Recently, I was studying one of these Bach flower essences that are the things that I work with.
I love them, by the way.
Yeah, you had a
Yeah.
blend from me, I remember.
Yes. And I'm still using them.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Um, so one of the Bach flowers, I don't think it's in the blend I gave you, it might be, but it's called hornbeam. And we know it in the normal sense for giving energy. So people, say this is like, fireworks in a bottle. It's like, you know, alternative to caffeine, whatever. Some people find a huge boost of energy from taking that. But as I was studying the remedy and looking into the function of mitochondria, mitochondria are very sensitive to um, uh, all the neurochemicals that we produce from our thoughts and feelings. And essentially, if you're out of integrity with yourself on some level, if there's not that coherence of thoughts and emotions, the mitochondria refuse to participate in that.
Yeah.
They will pull the plug on your energy in uh, in concert with your higher self, let's say. But, you have to be sourced with integrity in order to, like, for your body to produce energy. It's really on that level, right? That, like,
Yeah.
deep inside your cells, these factories of ATP that create our energy are completely dependent on alignment.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, so that's so fascinating, right? That,
Right. I know. Me too. Like,
yeah.
I was just, what? Like, how is that a thing? But it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I feel like that is the perfect example of everything in this life where even the hard things. It's everything here is to help us grow, to help us evolve, to help us deepen our understanding of ourself and our identity, who we know ourselves to be. And I love that. Well, I mean, I feel like any dis-ease state in the body is some sort of lie we're telling ourselves or that someone else told us that lowered our frequency or our vibration. And so, there's all these sort of like crumbs or little puzzle pieces along the way that you could just take a snapshot of anybody's life and time and look and see where are things going well, where are things struggling, where are things really fantastic, where are things difficult, and you can just look and see exactly where the work needs to be done.
Brenda, this is amazing, and I wish I were coming to your retreat because it's just I feel that much better for just having talked to you for a little while.
Well, thank you.
So lucky clients. Tell people who are listening, please, where they can best find you if they would like to connect with you.
Yeah, so I think my website is probably the best place. And then, of course, I'm really old-fashioned. I'll say email. But my website is brendabrummond.com. And then I am on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, doing more on LinkedIn these days because my ideal clients are, female founders, leaders, entrepreneurs, C-suite executives, women who are like basically me, really driven to succeed and want to accomplish all the things. And they want to remove every level of resistance they can possibly find. And then I'm on Facebook some also. And then my email is drbrenda at brendabrummond.com. And I've got a book working on that will be out next year. It's called F Everyone. Um,
Yeah.
it means forgive everyone, though.
Yeah.
I want to make forgiveness like the sexiest 11-letter word that you will ever know and teach you more of a new modern way of understanding how to forgive yourself and others. And then, yeah, I have the school of self-worth, modern feminine, a way for us women not to, go way too deep in our masculine energy in this world and come back into our feminine. And yeah, work with women one-on-one and yeah, it can be found a few different places online too. So
Well, it sounds like we could have easily multiple conversations here, but this was fabulous. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you being here. I'll put all of those links in the show notes.
thank you so much for having me, Tracy. I really appreciate it. And to the listeners for listening.